Hey everybody, Quantum here, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at some of the tournaments that occurred over the September 6th weekend. You can see here we have a 1K and a 2K from Star City Games. This is going to be some good insight into what you can expect maybe coming up at the upcoming Disney Lorcana challenges for the Set 5 metagame. Where we last left off though, the Malmo tournament in Sweden saw a couple of Emerald decks, Amber Emerald and Emerald Amethyst, duke it out in the finals where the bounced Amethyst package with Emerald ended up taking the victory here. We covered this, I believe, in our last meta report, but a very interesting list. Of course, the Clarabelle is the big new card from the set that's really coming up to be the, the Diablo and Beast Tragic hero of this set in terms of its cost now after, starting off in the set at like $10, which is crazy. Regardless though, we're going to take a look at these three tournaments here. We got two in the US and one in Europe and Great Britain. So let's start off with the 1K here with 45 players. You see Kendall, which is No I'm Not, I believe. Take It with Ruby Amethyst coming in first place. What Set 5 adaptations have we made here? Well, we still got the Chernobog followers and the brooms at 4. We're still running the Flynn and Sisu package, and you would think that the Flynn package might get kind of power crept out if Steel Song becomes much more popular now, because turn 1 Cinderella into Storm into Strength, right? If they play a second character on their second turn, if they're on the play, are instant outs to Flynn Rider, making it much more of a liability if Steel Song becomes much more popular. It was still a liability before, but if Steel Song increases in popularity, the Flynn Rider is a little bit harder to execute against those steel decks if they're more prevalent in the meta. Still 4 Snake, 4 Brawl, 4 Frenzy on the other side, so just no nonsense, going straight up for the consistency route. I like it. 4 Fox, 2 Crab, 4 Sisu, and 2 Library. So I've already kind of covered the synergy that the Library has with these 2 1-drops here, 8 in total, getting basically double draws off of these if you are able to move them here and execute their abilities. 4 Goats, 4 Rabbits, 4 Castles, 4 Maui, 3 Medusa, 4 Be Prepared, and the 1 Big Sisu as an extra copy of Be Prepared basically for those aggro decks. So very consistent, straightforward list. I like it a lot. When you take a look at the uninkable count, you've got 4 Rabbits, you've got 4 Be Prepared, and you've got 3 Medusa and 1 Sisu for another 4. So you got a total of 12 uninkables, a very easy to play deck, I guess you could say. You're very unlikely to brick. Ruby Amethyst doing what it needs to do, staying consistent, being a, once again, top deck in the meta, it seems. I like this list a lot. I think it can be very good. No I'm Not proved it, being one of the premier Ruby Amethyst players in the game for sure. I think he's been playing it since set 1. So congratulations on that victory. We don't have any other deck lists, by the way, here, I don't believe. Yeah, nothing else published at the moment, so we don't know what he went up against or what made the top 8. If we take a look at the 2K, I did want to cover this because I do think that Amber Emerald is going to continue to be one of the strongest decks in the meta. I talked about this on the stream where I did the $1,500 singles sorting when somebody asked me what I would bring to a DLC if I was going, and I gave 2 answers. I said if I was going just to try to top and get some of the promo cards, maybe see how far I can make it in the top cut, but in my opinion, one of the best decks to play to top the tournament, if you're not really a player who grinds, day job level hours on the game, would probably be a deck like Amber Emerald. And the reason is because a lot of people just struggle countering this line of play. Of course, a very good player will likely be able to outplay a deck like this, but even so, this deck does have some of those broken lines that the Emerald Steel Bucky decks would have as well. So one of the broken lines that you can have here is any turn 2 drop, which is going to be a Sir Hiss or an Ursula, into a turn 3 Prince John, and then you can Sing Sun and Chill or Bare Necessity. Since you have 8 copies of these, very likely you have one in your opening hand along with the 2-drop that can sing it, and the Sir Hiss has evasive, so it's protected most likely if you do sing it, and then that nets you a draw off Prince John. But the real combo is just 2 cards. If you have Prince John on 3 and you have Forgotten Me on 4, that's a 4-card tempo swing where you discard 2 from your opponent and then you draw 2. That is enough to almost win you a game in and of itself. So a deck like this, it's very easy to just, sack wins almost. Win games you shouldn't be winning just by pure advantage, by some of the lines that this deck has, as long as you know some of the basic lines and what not to try to play into. Like a deck like this does get pretty hard countered by things like Be Prepared, like Opposing Under the Seas, like the Sisu 8-drop that wipes 2 strength and less characters. But you do have a lot of interesting synergy with a deck like this. The Muses and Prince John both being kind of towers with ward on them make them basically untouchable, and they have to be dealt with things like multiple grab your swords in the case of the Muses, The Sisu, like I said, be prepared, and that is very far away. And by the time they get to the point where they could play cards like that, you've hopefully discarded their hand. That's what this deck aims to do. That's how it survives, right? You have Aerials and you have Diablos. This will dig for songs, and this will draw you cards. And then they're bounceable with the Muses. So if your Diablo looks like it could be threatened, you can bounce it back and likely bounce back the 1-drop along with it, you know, and then ink the 1-drop, re-hard cast the Diablo if you want. You can bounce back Aerial to replay it and scry again, right? Of course, you can bounce back your opponent's threats also, and you can lower the strength of your opponent's stuff with things like the Pain in the Roses Red and the Kita. But the big 1-2 punch combo, another very broken line of play that this deck has, is you drop the Kita, you reduce the field by -3, even something like a Tamatoa would become a 2-strength character, and then you sing Under the Sea with whatever other characters you have on board, and you're able to wipe out the board. So not only are you discarding their hand, but you're also wiping the board out with this later combo if they are able to establish any kind of presence that you need to deal with. In addition to that, since you are playing a lot of very weak characters, you can see here 1-strength, 2-strength is pretty much where you cap out at. The Crikey or Cricky, however you want to say it, comes in and boosts everything up by +3 strength, allowing you to also board wipe whatever's exerted. The Under the Sea, the Brunos, the You're Welcome at 4 here, the 4 You Have Forgotten Me, the Emerald removal spells, guys, I'm telling you, this stuff is so powerful now. The only real set 5 adaptation that you needed was the You're Welcome. This card is insane in Emerald, especially when you're on a discard package, forcing your opponent to draw 2 so that you can You Have Forgotten Me, Sudden Chill it away, you know, Bare Necessities, look at the hand, rip a card. There's a multiple ways that you can just instantly rip out whatever that you let them draw. And the fact that it's a song means it can be sang by the Aerial because it's Singer 5, by something like the Muses. What is an interesting tech option I find is the Lyle in this deck. I don't know if I prefer the Lyle or the new Anna, because the Anna, again, has multiple applications when you can kind of constantly redrop her. But the Lyle giving Reckless is a way to stall out aggro decks and your opponent from, you know, just questing for a ton of lore with a big character or something like that. So it can be good in that regard as well. But yeah, a very interesting list. Only down to one drop in the 4 Diablos, right? And then when I build mine, I also cut the Queen package from mine, which is what this deck used to play, or some versions used to play it. But the Cove and the Diablo is all you play here. Cove is there, again, protecting things like Aerial, like Diablo, like the Muses from getting Sisu wipe potentially. They have to deal with the Cove first. Not too hard to do for decks, honestly. Like a 1 Maui comes down and takes us out, then a Sisu can follow that up at a later date or later turn and wipe this deck out. But, you know, still a very strong deck in my opinion. One of the decks that I think will remain in the format to be something that is a little annoying to deal with. We take a look at this Ruby Amethyst that came top 4, so not necessarily in second place, and this one is slightly different from Normnot's list. No Elsa's in Normnot's list, or in Kendall's list, but we have Elsa's in this list. We have Lady Tremaine's. We still got the 1 Sisu, no 3-drop Sisu, but 2 Be King Undisputed. So the difference is they're not running the library, they're still on Queen's Castle. They're on Olaf's instead of the Brooms. Still on the Flynn Rider Sisu package. Only 3 Brawls instead of 4 on the 2 Crabs as well. 4 Goats, 4 Rabbits, 4 Mauis, and 62 cards. So a couple of extra cards. Probably these extra 2 Lady Tremaines. Only 3 Be Prepared and the 1 Sisu as well. So interesting to see this list in the top 4. And RMB, a guy who's known, who has his own YouTube channel, I believe. So go check them out if you. I think you can just YouTube the name, and really top level play by watching him and his analysis. But he's known for Steel, Sapphire Steel, but he brought Amethyst Steel to this event and got top 16 with 60 cards in the deck. We take a look here. We've got the Chernobog and the Cogsworth, 4 Chernobogs, 2 Cogsworth, 2 Fire the Cannons, and 4 Brooms. So a total of 10 1-drops with the 2 Fire the Cannons for 12 one cost playable cards. 1 random Baboom, not sure how I feel about that, but, you know, he knows what he's doing. 4 Mim, Snake, and 4 Mr. Smee, 4 Friends, 3 Lawrence, sorry, as another, you know, big, beefy character that comes down. 4 Madam Mim, 2 Merlin Crab, and 4 Pete, Games Referee. So the Pete, as you can probably tell, is probably what this deck is kind of based around. Bouncing back to Pete, replaying it, keeping your opponent off of those songs. A good way to stall out against Amber Steel Song, for example, against the Emerald Amber deck as well. It would be interesting to see if he played against that deck, because I think a deck like this could definitely hurt Amber Emerald a lot, just by nature of this Pete. 2 Library, 3 Zeus, 4 Crab, or sorry, 4 Goat, 4 Rabbit, 4 Castle, and 3 of the Bell, Accomplished Mystic, and the 2 Chenpo. So a very mid-rangey kind of deck for sure. That again focuses on some sort of board control with the Pete locking out actions from your opponent. This card, man, this card is a problem for sure. Yeah, it's a very good card. But yeah, top 16 for Amethyst Steel. And then the Great Britain tournament for what we have published here. Once again, we've got Amber Emerald taking this one. Earl, I think that's supposed to be Earl Meister, who again is another YouTuber, I believe. Not on the discard package. This is an aggro variation of the deck. Interesting to see one Anna being used here without any of the, what do you call it, Muses. And I'm curious why only one Clarabelle as well. I wonder if, you know, they just don't have access to more copies, maybe. But again, for the You're Welcomes, the 2 Lyle, the 4 Moana. Again, I'm telling you guys, this card is really underrated. Just the stat line for the Quest for 2 is pretty good. The 4 Banzai, okay, aggro threat, a lot of 2-drops as well, a decent amount of 3-drops. 1 Chromacon, 1 Hades, okay, 4 Rapunzel, of course. 2 Tinks from set 1, the evasive threat that comes down and gives one of your other characters evasives as well. And on the Queen package here, which is interesting. And then 2 of the Mother Gothel. Yeah, the only thing I just don't understand here is the 1 Clarabelle. Because, you know, in a Mufasa, basically Green Fasa, right, at this point, I would think you definitely want more Clarabelles because you're running through your hand pretty quickly, and I don't really see a way to refill it other than this Rapunzel, right? So you're kind of running into the same issue that you have with Ruby Amber Mufasa, where like you kind of really depend on the Rapunzel drawing you cards, which, you know, it can work. Obviously, you know, they won the case with this deck, which, you know, congratulations to them. But I would think you would want more Clarabelle. So I'm curious if he ever watches this video, or, you know, if he addresses it on his own channel, why he only played 1 Clarabelle here. That would be interesting to know. We don't have any other data other than another Amethyst Steel list coming in top 4. So this one, much different than RMB's list. We've got 4 Fire the Cannons and 4 Mickey as our only 1-drops, 4 Snake and 4 Mr. Smee. See, like a line like this, like I've tried to experiment with something like this myself, and I just don't really like it, because if you have Snake and you don't have the Mickey and you don't have the Smee, you have no turn 1 or turn 2 play, right? Like you could Fire the Cannons if you have that. But like if you have Snake, you need Mickey, and if you don't have Mickey, you need Smee. So it really limits your opening hand into like how many like different play patterns you have, and I just don't like that. But, you know, this guy did very well with it, so congratulations to him. But I'm just pointing out one of the reasons why I couldn't make a line like this work. 3 Benjas, I'm a fan of the Benja. 4 of the Friends, 3 Lawrence, 4 Mim, Fox, and 3 Crab. Of course, 4 Pete's. 4 Zeus, I like that as well. 2 of the Elephant, so you got a lot of ways to bounce this Pete. 10 different ways to bounce the Pete back to hand. 4 Goats, 4 Rabbits, 3 Castle, 4 Elsa the 5th Spirit, and then 2 of the Big Shift Elsa. I picked up a second foil one of this. I think that this card with the new 5th Spirit is just really, really nice. I'm trying to cook up mid-range Emerald Amethyst deck. I just haven't had the time. If you made it this far in the video, if you're wondering maybe why I haven't posted too much content, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Worlds this weekend. So, you know, I've been kind of watching that, not doing too much with Lorcana right now. But yeah, we've got some interesting decks coming out of the meta for sure. I'm a fan of seeing the Amethyst Steels. I've said for a long time that I think that this ink pairing should have everything it needs to make it a good deck. But I guess really when you look back at it, what it was really missing was that really broken, unfair card that all these other decks kind of had access to, like Bucky, like A Whole New World, because Amethyst Steel doesn't really play A Whole New World. They don't have a real way to utilize it as well as Amber Steel's Song, like Be Prepared. But being able to use some of the more powerful Amethyst cards while now having access to the big, bad Pete Games referee, I think really shows you that this deck can, you know, finally have some teeth. We got a French tournament here. I'm just curious to see if they're also on the Pete. This one's on a Robin Hood Damage Emerald Steel. Wow. Okay. Oh, they are on the Pete. There it is. Yeah. So Pete, I think just in any steel deck is now an auto include. Yeah. I mean, the foil version is going for like $12. I just sold my my 5th foil copy. I sold one for $11.99 online there. But Hans from set 1 showing itself in this list. Quite interesting. Oh, red-blue popping back up here. 4 of the small Sisu and 4 of the big Sisu. Only 2 Be Prepared, relying more on the Sisu lines here with the 4 ice blocks. Okay, only 1 Hideaway. Gaston lines. Is there the shift? No shift Gaston. Wow. I think that's a lost opportunity there. I would definitely want, if I'm playing the small Gaston, I would want to play the bigger one as well. At least 1 or 2 copies of it. 2 Cusco though with the 2 Hideaway, with the 1 Hideaway. 4 Tipo, 3 Visions, 1 Develop. Okay. Yeah, like this is an interesting list. The only thing in my testing, I didn't like Dragon in red blue anymore. But aside from that, this looks pretty nice to me, more or less. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the 1-ups, but it's okay. Let's take a look at this. Oh, this the villain version? A little bit. You got Potions of Might, you've got Queen, you've got the Chicha engine. What other villains are you really running here? Just Madame Medusa and Queen. So, I mean, it still gives +3 to everything else. Like, you only get the +4 on the villains. So, you know, your Tipo can still be a 4-2. Especially with the Chicha, your Tipo could become 4-2 as 6-2, right? Because the Chicha has support. Yeah, it's interesting. I do think that the Chicha engine is probably pretty good in red-blue. I mean, yes, it's a little susceptible to steel. And, you know, steel decks have definitely closed the gap against sapphire decks, right, where they had a significant disadvantage. But the deck that won the tournament, running 4 Daisy and 4 Daisy, which is quite interesting, a total of, wow, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24 1-drops, 28 one-cost cards, of which 24 are 1-drops. Yeah, super, super low to the ground. Just flood the board, draw cards with the Chromocon, and then 2 of the Sven, which will ready up a character, just basically protecting them so that they don't get run over. So, you know, you'd want to ready up something like a Piglet, where it can quest for 3 potentially, or like a Daisy, or a Lilo, or a Maleficent, and then close the game out with the Gathering Knowledge or the Merlin Goat. So very interesting to see this kind of aggro deck, you know, so many 1 and 2 drops here, taking this small French tournament. I don't think this one, yeah, this one was only 4 rounds, so don't read too much into this. Probably a very localized tournament, obviously, but 31 players, so, you know, a decent showing. But yeah, that's going to do it for the September 6th weekend meta report. Let me know what you think. What are you the most interested in seeing do well in tournaments, and what might you be playing if you're taking your deck to, you know, either locals or a more competitive event. Anyways, if you made it this far in the video, thank you again for watching. Quantum is out.